This is material which was found on the body of one of those sadistic villains. It's Al-Qaeda material, official Al-Qaeda material. We're dealing with ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hamas. This is what we're dealing with. And in this material, there were instructions how to produce chemical weapons. It speaks about arson, and it speaks about various chemicals that come out and produce chemical weapons. Simple as that.
The severing of medical supplies and electricity is having an incredibly profound effect on the...
But it's not severing.
But it's having a very profound effect on the ability for those hospitals to operate.
But that's part of the distorted information. It was Hamas missiles which broke down the electricity infrastructure in Gaza. Nothing to do with us. Water, we supply only 7% of the water. It's fuel? Hamas operation. There is fuel for the humanitarian need. It's under UNRWA. We are following very closely the humanitarian situation on the hour. Most of Gaza is functioning. There are areas that are under battle. This is a real tragedy, but how does the world want... How does the world cope?
We can't say Gaza's functioning.
How does the world cope? First of all, a lot of distorted information comes out of Gaza.
No, but we do have a team on the ground who we do trust, and we can't say that Gaza is a functioning territory.
But the problem is, of course, that part of the infrastructure and part of the aid is hijacked by Hamas. That's the issue. Guys, it's very easy to blame Israel. Let's just remember where we were, what happened, and how do we have the right to defend ourselves when a missile that flies 250 kilometers straight into Israel comes from people's living room. That's the situation we're faced with. No other nation is faced with that. And had any nation been faced with that, believe me, they would have attacked the same.
Well, Alistair joins me now live from Jerusalem. Ali, how significant is this revelation about chemical weapons?
Well, the Israeli President Isaac Herzog sits above party politics in Israel. He's not a member of the war cabinet, for example, and over this past year with the controversy over judicial reforms, he's been pretty critical of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But this was evidence, he says, that instructions on how to build a chemical weapon were found on the bodies of Hamas fighters discovered in Kibbutz Be'eri, which was one of the worst hit kibbutz near the Gaza border. We cannot verify those claims ourselves, although I have put them to chemical weapons experts that I know, and some of them have said that in terms of if these ingredients were put together to make a chemical weapon, then it could make a viable chemical weapon. Whether or not this proves any kind of link between Hamas and Al-Qaeda or Hamas and Islamic State, I would be skeptical on that because of some of the documents we've seen don't necessarily prove that. But what it does, in the Israeli eyes, show is, again, just what sort of intent the Hamas fighters had when they came over that border. And it takes what they did, potentially, a step further, a step into what could have been a very, very dangerous situation. What they did do is they massacred and murdered many Israelis and other nationalities, and they took a lot of them hostages in the biggest terrorist attack this country has ever seen, and in the most grim and macabre fashion. But this would be a significant escalation in what we knew so far, in so much that if their intent or their desire was to try and build chemical weapons at some stage, well, that puts a whole new detail, a whole new slant on what Hamas had been planning for some time. So as I say, we, as Sky News, can't independently verify these, but President Isaac Herzog positions himself as an international statesman. He generally rises above Israeli politics, and he's presented these documents to us and shown them to us in that interview that you saw.
Ali, it also speaks, I wonder, because it raises in a way at this point almost more questions than it answers, this allegation from the Israeli president. And I wonder what you make of this time lag that there inevitably is between a piece of information like this being offered up and the ability of journalists like us to be able to prove or disprove it, and the harnessing of that information by both sides in what has become a very binary conflict.
Well, on one hand, I would say that there is a lot of work still going on. It might seem as though it was some time ago since these attacks happened, more than 2 weeks now. But take it from me, there is a lot of work still going on in those kibbutzes, those villages, those towns, to still uncover what happened. They are still trying to identify bodies. They think there are some bodies they might never be able to fully identify. They are still finding an awful lot of information as to what went on 2 weeks ago. So in one respect, I think it's entirely plausible that these documents have only recently come to light. But yes, this is a war. This is a war between Israel and Hamas, and in any war, there is an element of a propaganda war. Now, that is not for a moment to say that what President Herzog has shown us is not true, is not accurate. But Israel is preparing for the next stage in this war, and that next stage could be a ground invasion. And a ground invasion has the potential to open up new, very deadly, very violent fronts around this region, whether it's Lebanon, whether it's the West Bank, Iraq, Syria, elsewhere. And what Israel needs to do is it needs to keep reminding people of the horrors that the country went through 2 weeks ago, and it needs to continue, as any nation would do, to build its case for what comes next. And I think we just need to see it through that context.